All you really need to write is something to write with and a place to write. But there are definitely things that can make writing feel easier and a more pleasant experience. In today's video, I'm sharing my full writing setup and all the things I use to help me write my novels. I hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Andrea. Welcome or welcome back. I have been writing consistently for over a decade, first as an academic, now as a creative writer. And my writing environment, the space that I write in, is very, very important and is a huge part of how I maintain a consistent writing routine. Virginia Woolf talked about needing a room of one's own in order to write. You might not be able to carve out a whole room. I've taken over the dining room area of my apartment, so it's more of an office space, an office corner, than a whole room. When I first moved into this apartment, I needed an office more than I needed a dining room, so here we are. So maybe you can't have a whole room, but a space of your own dedicated to writing is still really, really important and sets you up for success. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing all of the things that help me as a writer, from my writing spaces to all the technology and apps that I use to the things that enhance the overall vibe and aesthetics of writing, because for me, the aesthetics are really, really important. So before we get into it, two disclaimers. All of the products that I will mention have been carefully curated and purchased and collected over the last several years. I did not go out and buy everything all at once, and I really don't recommend that you do that, especially if you're just getting started as a writer. To get started, a basic computer will be more than good enough. You could easily spend a fortune on stuff that you don't need, so I really recommend slowly building up and finding things that just make writing feel easier, feel more efficient, or just make writing feel like a more pleasant experience. So you don't need most of what I will talk about in this video, but it might give you some ideas. A second disclaimer, I love all things magical, whimsical, creative, nice, and my space borders probably on the side of too cluttered. I am not a minimalist. My setup could definitely be streamlined to something more simple and less cluttered if that's your preference. So hopefully there will still be some things in here that will help you, even if you are more minimalist in your design aesthetic and your space preferences. So if you're looking to enhance your writing space, hopefully this video will give you some ideas. Let's dive in, starting with writing spaces. I do most of my writing at my desk, and my desk has definitely changed a lot over the years. My current positioning is probably my favorite. I can still look out the window, but I have room for my large external monitor. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but I don't only write at my desk. So I also have a cozy armchair that I've done a lot of writing in over the years. Most recently, I've rearranged things in my office to bring the chair into my office so that I can swap my desk chair and the armchair around and pull the armchair up to the window. And I have fallen absolutely in love with doing that, especially on a cloudy, rainy day. I also will write on my couch and occasionally in bed. Sometimes I need to just be able to put my feet up and be extra comfy while I write. Also, I do have a chronic illness. I have fibromyalgia, and sometimes it's just hard to get out of bed, and writing in bed helps me stay on track with my goals if I do want to write. That being said, if I truly don't feel like writing, I don't. But if I do want to write and I'm dealing with a lot of physical pain because of my chronic illness, then sometimes writing in bed or on the couch helps me get around the physical discomfort so that I can focus on the story. I also love going out and writing in a coffee shop. These days are great when I want to focus. I just bring my laptop or my iPad and a notebook along with noise canceling headphones, and I'm good to go. I just write. Sometimes at home, it's easy to decide that laundry or dishes just have to be done right now. So writing out somewhere cuts down on those distractions. Occasionally I write at work, depending on my teaching schedule. Sometimes I have time between classes or between office hours and teaching. This is a great time to squeeze in 10 to 20 minutes of writing. I don't do this all the time. I don't want anyone to think that I'm maxing out every possible minute of writing time. I'm not, I promise. But if I want to write, if I feel like writing, I don't let the space I'm in stop me from writing. Finally, and probably my favorite place to write, is on vacation. I find traveling so inspiring, and writing also helps distract me from my flying anxiety on travel days. I'm always observing people around me and making notes for stories and different ideas that pop up. Last year I did a bit of writing while I was in London, as well as on a train going from York to Oxford, and it was so much fun. I was working on my Across the Pond series, which is my London-based contemporary romance series, and I wrote a lot of the first book in that series over the course of several years and during several visits to London and Oxford, and every trip provided new inspiration for a scene or a book. I think even if I wasn't planning on writing, like actively writing a draft of something while I was traveling, I would still be bringing a writing notebook that I could just scribble down notes and ideas and observations and things like that. Next, analog tools. Tech is great, and I do use a fair bit of it, but I'm a child of the 80s, and sometimes nothing beats good old analog tools. So the biggest thing is a notebook. I love a good notebook, and I have a different notebook for every series or project that I work on. All of my notes, word trackers, challenges that I might do, you know, weekly or monthly challenges while I'm working on something, ideas, and more just random stuff related to the series will go into that notebook. Each book in the series is in that one notebook, so as I'm working on the next book in the series, I can refer back to things. A lot of this does get duplicated into digital form in my Scrivener file for the project, but I often start with notes and ideas in a physical book. When I start outlining a new project, I will often work for at least a couple weeks or so in a notebook before I start doing anything in Scrivener. So there's nothing like using a pen and paper to cut down on other distractions when that is the only thing you can focus on and when your laptop isn't open at all. I'm not super picky on pens, but I do prefer gel pens or fountain pens, something with smooth ink, and I love different colors as well as highlighters and markers for color coding or highlighting headings in my notes. I particularly love the Tombow dual brush markers and zebra mild liners. Another analog tool I can't live without is my visual timer. I have ADHD, as I've mentioned, so I struggle with time blindness, and I can get really hyper-focused when I write. So I'll think it's just been 30 minutes, but really it's been 2 hours, and I haven't gone to the bathroom, and my water bottle is empty, and I haven't eaten lunch, and I need to step away from my desk. So having a visual timer that lets me see the time actually ticking down really helps me focus without getting so distracted that I lose time. I've tried using a digital timer on my phone. I will use that in a pinch, but the screen goes dark, and for some reason not being able to see the time ticking down really does make a difference. Two other things that I'm just kind of including here because I don't know where else they really fit. I do have a laptop stand and a monitor stand, which just helps keep my screens kind of at an optimal eye level. And I have a book stand for putting up my notebook if I'm transcribing things that I've handwritten, or if I've got a book that I'm doing research in and want to be able to have something open to a page. So my book stand, it folds up flat when I'm not using it, but then it keeps books and notebooks propped up easily when I am using it. All right, let's talk tech. I honestly keep this fairly simple. For my laptop, I use a MacBook Pro. You do not need a MacBook Pro as a writer. The MacBook Pro is an absolute powerhouse of a computer and is definitely much more than most writers need. But I'm also a YouTuber, a content creator, and an indie publisher, and I do all of my own cover design. So I do a lot of video editing, graphic design, photo editing, things like that. So I need all the extra internal storage, all the memory, all the RAM, all of those technical specs, as well as the increased storage. I think I've got a 1 terabyte built-in hard drive on my current MacBook Pro. I've been using a MacBook Pro since around 2010, I believe, and this is the third one that I've had. So for me, the MacBook Pro helps me have everything I could possibly need, and for me is worth the price. But my laptop isn't the only thing that I type on. I also have an iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard. I also have the Apple Pencil, and the iPad and keyboard are great for taking out to coffee shops or when I'm traveling so that I'm not hauling around my huge MacBook Pro with me. It's a much lighter and easier carry when I'm out and about compared to my laptop. I will say the iPad keyboard, it is smaller and it does take some getting used to, but once I adjusted, I'm as fast on that thing as I am on any other keyboard. Fun fact, because this keeps coming up, people who say they don't have any time, which is valid. A lot of people don't, and I've definitely had that time as well. But my first romance novel, A Brave Start, was written in 5 to 20 minute increments, 3 days a week, and most of it, at least half of it, was written on my first iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard. It takes longer to finish a novel when you're writing like that, but it is possible to write a book in those small gaps of time that you have throughout your day or your week. In addition to the Bluetooth keyboard, I also have an Apple Pencil for my iPad, which is great for annotating drafts. It saves so much money to not have to print out every draft, but still gives me that hand editing feel. So as expensive as these things are, if you are going to be writing and publishing a number of books and doing a lot of editing, then I do recommend having some sort of tablet, Apple, iPad, or otherwise, with a digital pencil pen situation, so that you have that feel of marking up a physical piece of paper without having to spend a fortune on ink and paper, printing everything off, and then wondering, do you recycle it? Do you have to find somewhere to store it? If I printed off all the various drafts of all the novels I have written, I would be drowning in paper, and I'd probably be bankrupt from the cost of printing it. Next up, an external monitor, keyboard, mouse, and the laptop stand that I mentioned, as well as the monitor stand. I love having an external monitor. I love having a bigger screen. Having an external monitor lets me work across 2 screens and lets me have more space to have Scrivener open as huge on the screen as possible and have all the different windows and things in Scrivener open and accessible. I also love an old-fashioned mechanical keyboard. The more click-clack, the better. Fun fact, I learned how to type on an electrical typewriter. I am that old. So I do love an older, noisier keyboard. It still needs to be smooth, but I love that sound. I love that sound so much. Finally, noise canceling headphones. These are great when you are working out of the home or if you have noisy roommates or housemates. Noise canceling headphones are just gonna be the best thing. So I started with a set of AirPod Pros, so I can have it set so that I can hear everything when I'm hiking, or I can have it on noise canceling when I'm at work or in a coffee shop or something like that. The next year I got myself a pair of Bose Quiet Comfort over-ear noise canceling headphones. I love those. I would say both the AirPod Pros and the Bose headphones, while they are both pricier, if either of them died, I would immediately go repurchase them. The noise canceling on the Bose are a little bit better, I think, because they go completely over your ears. So I'll use either of these when I'm working in a coffee shop, or I love the Bose ones when I'm working here at home during the summer when my air conditioning is blaring, which you might be able to hear in the background. It'll turn off again eventually. Next category, backup options. Back up your work. Backing up your writing is so important, and I say this from the perspective of someone who did lose a 13-page research paper during my first master's degree when my laptop was stolen. The house I was living in was broken into and burglarized, and one of the things they took was my laptop, which I'd been up very late the night before writing this paper. It was a whole thing. So back up your work. Don't learn the lesson the hard way like I did. I, for most things, will just use a basic cloud storage. I have iCloud with all of my Apple devices, and so that then also syncs them across my devices. So that's the main thing I use, but I do have an external hard drive for additional backup. I like that for long-term storage. So my external drive is more of a place for an archive of completed things. As a quick option, I will also email things to myself. I keep a folder in my email of draft work. In the subject line of the email, I put what the file is. So for example, draft 1 ATP 5 chapters 1 through 20, because like I got really paranoid as I was getting to the end. Like, what if something happens? It's backed up to my iCloud, but I still emailed it to myself just in case. Saving things in multiple stages in multiple places is never it's never a bad thing. It might be overkill, but I'd rather have overkill with my backup than not back it up, if that makes sense. apps and software. I probably don't use as many apps or software as other writers do. I feel like there are a million things being marketed to people these days, but I keep my software pretty simple. I also have a very firm stance against generative AI and even certain AI-assisted technology. It depends on what kind of AI is being used, how it's being used, and specifically what it is doing with my writing. So anything that would be taking my writing and scraping it and using it for training purposes is a hard no-go for me. I'm noticing that a lot more writing programs, particularly those that are subscription-based and are housed on another server that are not local to your device, a lot of those are now having more of these AI features in them, and so I'm very wary of adding new programs to my collection. The main thing I use is Scrivener. And this program is a massive workhorse. This is especially going to be good for any plotters out there, and I am a diehard plotter. But I do know discovery writers who really like Scrivener. When it comes to outlining, developing, drafting your project, for me it really doesn't get better than Scrivener. There's not much that it can't do. I will say, I do all of my own editing, but if you do work with an outside editor, at some point you'll need to migrate out of Scrivener and into Word doc, as Microsoft Word is kind of the industry standard for editors, but I love Scrivener. If when I'm ever lucky enough to work with an editor, it's Scrivener still worth it to have. I wrote my PhD dissertation on it, and 9 of my 11 novels were written on it, so I don't think I could ever stop using it. And Scrivener, and the developers of Scrivener, also have a very firm stance against AI and are insistent that it not be part of their program. So this is something that I've recently had confirmed by them. So yeah, no AI in Scrivener. I've done a few videos sharing how I use it, how I set it up, my favorite features, so you can check those out if you want more help getting started. The other app that I use regularly is iAnnotate on my iPad. This is a PDF annotation app. There are a bunch of these out here. This is the one I've been using the longest. I started using it during my PhD. I bought it at the time. I think it was a one-time purchase. I'm a huge fan of that. I hate subscription models if I can avoid it. So this was a one and done, one price, and I was good to go, and I've used it ever since. I can put a PDF on my iPad and mark it up with underlines, highlighting, margin notes, whatever I want to do. There's lots of different tools and features, and I can mark it up as if it was a physical piece of paper. 2 apps that I sometimes use during the research portion or research process of a book are Scapple and Babisco. So Scapple is made by the same developers as Scrivener, Literature, and Latte, and is a mind mapping tool, so that's really fun if you need to see visual connections between what you're working on. And then Babisco is a writing software, so it can be a good alternative for Scrivener. If you've tried Scrivener and you don't like it, I'd recommend checking out Babisco. It's ideal for people writing a series or doing fantasies or sci-fi. One of the biggest features, or like the strong points of Babisco, are all of the different world building features that it has. I particularly love the character interviews feature. There is a free version. You can use the free version of Babisco and still get my favorite feature, which is the character interviews, or you can buy the supporters edition and have all of the features. It's worth checking out, at least the free version, and seeing if you like it. Finally, the most recent app that I've started using is NordVPN, and no, this is not sponsored, but I was influenced for sure. I started using it last year. My mom and I, when we went to England, we needed a VPN for traveling, and so when I'm out, I'm either using a VPN or I'm connecting through the hotspot on my iPhone, but I don't log on to public Wi-Fi anymore. So I would recommend, if you are someone who likes writing out in coffee shops or when you're traveling, make sure that you've got some sort of secure network like a VPN or a personal hotspot on your cell phone. The only time I don't use one of those things is when I'm on campus, because I can log on to our secure network there. The writing vibes in a coffee shop are great, but not if you get hacked using a public network, so stay safe. Finally, aesthetics and mood. My favorite part. I love making sure the aesthetics and overall vibe and mood of the space that I'm writing in is just how I want it. Candles, playlists, fairy lights, mood boards, virtual ambiance videos. Give me all of it. I want it all. The biggest thing I need is music. I think that's like, of everything in this category, music is the one thing I absolutely cannot work without. I hate silence. but I need just the right noise. I have a dedicated playlist for every project. Sometimes I have two. Sometimes there'll be like a playlist of general pop music and things with lyrics in it, and then I also often have a playlist that has only instrumental music in it, so like the film score if my book was adapted to the screen. Some people can't write with music, or they can't write with music with lyrics, so this is definitely personal preference, but I can't write without music. Music is such an important part of my process. I do have a playlist of videos on YouTube of virtual ambiance videos, study with me, virtual walking videos, things that just give me a physical environment space, virtual environment. I try to find ones that are somehow connected to the location of my book and the season of the book that I'm writing. I will say with the virtual ambiance videos, I'm struggling with finding ones that are not obviously AI. I will often try to find virtual ambiance videos from like before 2020 and before AI became such, before the visual AI creations became such a thing. My next favorite thing, those who watch my videos all the time, you know, candles. I need a candle. I love a scented candle. I love the glow of the light of a candle. So for nearly all of my projects, I have had a dedicated project candle that is connected somehow. The scent is connected to the location, to the season the book is set in. I use that candle to help me kind of get into the mood of the story. I love having a candle burning while I write, especially when I'm writing in the morning before the sun comes up. I just find that it makes it feel more like a ritual. It makes it feel special. It makes it feel cozy, and that's cozy and magical. I'm all about that. At the start of each project, I'll also create a mood board on Pinterest just to kind of get a sense of the setting, the home of the main character, the season the book is set, maybe some things related to like what the character might wear, that sort of thing. Any other visual that I want to just kind of have in mind while I'm outlining, developing, or even when I'm drafting the book. It's also helpful to start getting ideas for the cover of the book since I design my own covers. Similar to mood boards, I also create my own Scrivener themes when I'm writing in Scrivener. So in Scrivener, you can adjust the appearance of your Scrivener window. I customize all of that, and I customize it for each new book. So I will have a picture in the backdrop of the writing screen related to the books. So I love playing with those, and it's one more thing that triggers my brain. This is the project we're working on, because I do often work on 2 or more projects at any given time. So if I'm working on 2 or more projects in one day, switching the candle, the playlist, the video ambiance stuff, the Scrivener background, all helps trigger my brain. Okay, we're leaving this project and we're moving into this project. Other lighting. Fairy lights, battery operated candles, soft lamp light. I can't stand large, bright overhead lighting, so I'm all about soft lights, warm lights, fairy lights, copper wire string lights, real candles, battery operated candles, all of the above. When I'm working over on my couch, I've got battery operated candles on the fireplace mantle and in the fireplace itself. It's never cold enough in Arizona or southern Arizona to light an actual fire, but I love having something warm and glowy in the fireplace. So lighting is really important. Don't ignore it when you're writing. Finally, flowers. I love flowers and nature overall, so having either fresh flowers or artificial flowers on my desk is important to me. Fresh flowers are my favorite, but I will do artificial if I can't get fresh. It's just nice to take a break from writing and looking at the screen and literally kind of stopping to smell the flowers, so to speak. It just gives my eyes a bit of a break and something nice and pretty to look at. Okay, I think that's it. For now, my writing setup is a constant work in progress. As I said in the beginning, you do not need all of these things, and this has taken me several years to create the space that I write in. So start simple, grow as you go. I recommend looking around, waiting for sales, checking out thrift stores, checking out discount stores, TJ Maxx, Home Goods. I get a lot of good candles from stores like that, and I've probably bought just as many candles from like a TJ Maxx or a Target as I have from Anthropologie or places like Jo Malone. But I will say, I'm not afraid to splurge on a project candle just because those are so special. But yeah, I've definitely gone the bargain route and the more premium route, so it kind of adjusts to fit your budget. I get a lot of compliments on my desk space, which is really lovely. I'm sure it is too cluttered for some and people are just too nice to say so, but I have ADHD, out of sight, out of mind, so I need all my pen pots and all my accessories and everything kind of within eyesight and within arm's reach. So keeping things visible is really, really important to me. I personally struggle more in an empty space. Even when I go out to a coffee shop, I've got my notebook and pen on the table, my water bottle, my headphone case. You know, I keep things on the table at a coffee shop. I can't, a bare table with just my laptop, that gives me the hives. So I know some people probably look at my desk and think, oh my gosh, it's so cluttered. I look at desks with nothing on them and I think, oh my gosh, there's like nothing on it. So it's definitely a personal preference. So my setup won't work for everyone. I hope some of this is helpful. I hope it gives you an idea for your own space. I hope if nothing else, seeing my setup will get you thinking about changes that you can make to your space and to create your optimal writing space. Creating your own optimal writing space, I think, is the most important thing a writer can do. So whether you've got just one little desk in a corner or a whole office of space to play with, taking the time to create your optimal writing environment is one of the best gifts you can give to yourself as a writer. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Both of those things would mean a lot to me. And I just have to take a moment to say a huge thank you and a warm welcome to all of you who subscribed off of my recent writing routine video. I have been over the moon seeing how many of you have watched it and how many of you have loved it and enjoyed it. The comments that you've left on that video have just been making me smile. My face hurts from smiling so much. So yeah, that means a lot. So if this is the first video of mine you're watching, I do hope you'll subscribe and join this lovely community that is growing a lot faster than I ever anticipated. But yeah, it's great to have you all here. In the comments, leave me a flower or candle emoji to let me know which one of you lovely people have made it all the way to the end of this vlog, because you are the real MVPs. You can also answer our question of the video. So what are your top 3 things that you need in your workspace in order to work? Whether that's as a writer or something else, what are your 3 workspace essentials? For me, my top 3, water bottle, emotional support lip balm, and music. Candle is number 4, but top 3, lip balm, water, and music. Cannot function without those 3. So let me know what your top 3 things are for your workspace. And that's going to do it for today. But I will see you all again very soon in the next video. Thank you very much for watching this one. Bye!